Hey y'all, welcome back to the Realm of Comics, where we discuss everything comics, manga, graphic novels, and I am here to listen. A time was had in June. A time was had in June, and a time was had in June because, as you all know, I was doing the Amazing Readathon in June, and I ended up reading quite a few, not quite a few, I ended up reading a lot of comics, graphic novels, and manga during June. And a lot of that's going to be covered in the vlog that I have going up on my other channel at some point this week, where I talk about how the readathon went and everything that I ended up reading. So now I get to go back to my regular schedule program where I can read just no prompts, no nothing. I am reading just because reading. And it feels good and it feels great. And I wanted to talk a little bit about my July reading plans. Now, some of the things that I did mention in June, that I meant for my June reading plans, I ended up actually reading those things, including like Something's Wrong with Us. I read The Sailor Moon as a special edition, so I did end up picking up some of those things, but you can check out more information about that stuff in that vlog. But I wanted to talk about a little bit of my reading plans for July. So there is one readathon that I am participating in July, and that's going to be July Noir, which is a 2-week condensed version of Blackoween that is happening the second half of July. So I will be participating in that. I still haven't decided where I'm going to go, but 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be leaning towards Ruby's Crew because I just love the creativity of the entire readathon, but y'all know I gravitate towards anything that's children's lit related, and then that is the area too where you can read graphic novels. So do not be surprised if some of my reading actually drifts towards that. So I don't have anything specifically laid out because, unlike everybody else, I'm not as organized and ready to go, but and ready with my plans just yet. But there's a possibility that I will be reading some graphic novel content specifically for that readathon that's going to be happening in the second half of July. I wanted to talk about everything else because I started some series, I need to finish some series, and I just wanted to give you kind of a heads up of what I'm going to be doing possibly in terms of general things. I think for the second half of the year, I want to get my foot back into content. I have been slacking over on this side of the universe, and that is not because I haven't been reading this stuff. It's just that, you know, life has been lifing. The readathon happened in June, and now I feel more settled in. I feel like the rest of this year is going to go a little bit more smooth than what I got in the first half of 2024. So we are walking into the second half of 2024 with a lot of positivity, a lot of good energy. And so I'm hoping that that will shift also and be visible in the content of this channel. So the 3 things that I want to talk about first are our July book club picks. Bree and I just did our June book club picks. We had a discussion last week. I will link that in the cards above just in case you missed it, where we talked about Clementine, book 1 and book 2, and then also Spider-Man Life Story, which I had not finished by the time we started the live show. I think I was about 60% into it. And I finished it a couple days later. It is one of my favorite reads, comics-wise, 2024, easily hands down, which I'm hoping to get you my favorites of the year so far, kind of like a mid-year freak-out tag, but comic, graphic novel, and manga version on this channel on Wednesday. But yes, so our book club picks for the month of July are going to include Malika Warrior Queen volumes 1 and 2. This is a group that is out of Nigeria that has this entire production company. They've been doing all of these comics that have been distributed through Dark Horse. I have read some of their stuff. I'm really excited to pick up Malika Warrior Queen. Now these are a little bit thicker, so I'm going to need to pace myself accordingly in reading volumes 1 and 2. And then we'll also be reading Eve and then Hotel Dare. So we have 4 things that we are reading for book club. We are playing kind of catch up, and I think August is the month where everything kind of regulates and we are back to our regular schedule program. So we just had to do some adjustments for Bree and I having some absence with life kicking in. But after this month, this is going to be, I think, the last heavy month, if I'm not mistaken, because August is where we are reading 3 volumes of manga, which will be kind of a change up for us. Now, something else that I have been reading And this was just random. I think I just got really into the spirit once again of diving into my Marvel and DC comics. I haven't really picked up anything DC Marvel unless it's been intended for like a YA or middle grade audience. All year long, I haven't picked up, like literally no Marvel DC comics, which is very unlike me. And I just have been picking up everything else but that. But after reading Spider-Man Life Story, I felt really, really inspired to dive back into reading things in my Marvel app. And so this last week of June, I literally had been going through, Comic Book Herald's website and looking at his essential reads for the modern Marvel period, which I think is like 98 to somewhere in the early 2000s, and then he has a second one that follows. He has an early one, kind of like a modern, and then like more of a current one. And one of the things that he has us start with is Grant Morrison's run on XMen, and he specifically recommended the first Omni, but I think that I'm just going to read through all of Grant Morrison's run because I just don't feel like it's 7 trades, and I don't feel like that's that bad of a read considering that I've already read 2 of the trades, and I read 2 trades in a couple of days, and it's been really, really interesting. I have been very intimidated by XMen. I think I've explicitly stated that here on the channel before. XMen is very, very difficult for me in terms of realizing that it is part of the Marvel universe. It definitely feels like its own separate entity, and it's not its own separate entity, but a lot of the times because of how complex the kind of X-Men section of Marvel can be, it just feels like it's not attached to Marvel at all. So to know that this was a good starting point for the modern era of Marvel, maybe for really good, starting with X-Men, and I kind of dove into the story. And granted, I think there are some things that you don't necessarily get in terms of background content, but for my general knowledge of the X-Men characters, I think I was pretty much fine. But this starts kind of a new story with the X-Men where we finally get to meet who is considered Charles's evil twin, and it's kind of hard because she's not technically human at all. She's like a ball of energy. It's weird, but Cassandra Nova. So if you've read X-Men, you're familiar with kind of his quote unquote evil twin. I read through all of that content that is specifically tied to Cassandra Nova, which I thought was really interesting. Emma Frost, badass, snarky, absolutely adored her. Got a little bit of Wolverine, Jean, of course. She transformed into Phoenix a couple times in the first 2 volumes that I read. So it was just really, really interesting. I thought the art was a little bit chaotic in some areas, but as far as storytelling, I'm typically a fan of Grant Morrison. Like, they don't really do much that I don't like. So I was excited to be able to jump into this run. So I think for July, I want to continue on. Like I said, it's 7 trades. I've already read 2. So I think that it wouldn't be that difficult for me to get through another 5 trades. And I'm reading all of mine on the Marvel app, which I think has been great because I've been like reading more on my tablet than ever. June was a really tablet heavy reading month, and I've just gotten very comfortable being able to read on my tablet. It's much better than laying in bed and having a thick book with me, but and a lot more content is accessible via like digital, especially because I pay for the Marvel app. But I wouldn't be surprised if I make it through now. I can't promise that I'll make it through all 5 trades, but it would be nice to make it through the next 5 trades of the all new X-Men that Grant Morrison did. I have some things checked out, and I want to talk about a couple of things that I continued, that I want to continue, that I read in June, that I feel like they were good enough for me to continue. So first, let's talk about a couple of the continuations, and then I'll show you the things that I have checked out. So continuations, I started reading Mixed Vegetables. I read volumes 1 and 2. I believe it's only its 7 or 8 volume series. It's available through the Viz Media app. I was reading that for the readathon, and it is another cooking manga. If you know anything about me, I love cooking manga. It is what it is, honey, okay? I love cooking manga. This is not the best manga that I've ever read. I think generally I've been giving the volumes like 3 stars, but for the most part, I'm loving kind of this play on her wanting to be a sushi chef and him wanting to be a pastry chef, but their families are opposite. So his family runs a sushi place, her family runs a pastry place, and they want to do opposite of their familial expectations. So I'm kind of liking that, and it's kind of like a development of their romance, which it's okay, but I think it's solid enough, and it's a series that I'm into it enough that I would want to continue it. I also read volume 1 of Kaiju number 8. So good. So good. I don't know what took me so long to start that series, to finally, because like I said, I have the Shonen Jump app and the Viz Media app. I don't know what took me so long to jump into the kaiju kind of territory, but I really, really, really enjoyed the first volume. I gave it 5 stars. So I'm not too far behind where I can't catch up. I don't know how many volumes I'll get read, but that is another series that I think I would be interested in reading. I also was reading Fence by C.S. Pacat. I don't know how to say the last name, and I don't have it in front of me to get it correct, but I read the first 3 volumes of Fence, I believe. I think I read the first 3 volumes, and I originally had read the first volume a long time ago, and I never continued it, but it was a way for me to like start over and continue the series, which was good. So I think it's only a 6-volume series. So I'm already halfway through, and those are really, really quick reads. They're like 100 pages. I never thought that I would be interested in fencing, but I'm really interested in fencing and this school that all these kids are in. It's just very interesting. I really liked it. I also finished volume 2 of Boys Run the Riot, which I've been meaning to pick that volume up for an extremely long period of time. And so that's a 4-volume series. I only have volumes 3 and 4 to pick up, and then I'll be done with that series. So I'm hoping to possibly close that out for the month of July. And then the last thing I have on continuations is One Piece. I've been sitting at volume 6 of One Piece for a year now, and I had gotten rid, just in a state of fury and anger, I'd gotten rid of all of my apps, and so I was saying, oh, I'll just read it through the library. Well, it takes so long for me to get these One Piece volumes to the library because so many people are reading it because of the live action on Netflix and the buzz around it. But at this point, to be quite frank with you, I would rather just go ahead and I started back that was my one thing that I was like, if I'm not buying books, I'm not really putting money into books, I can save those, you know, $3-4 a month and pay for the Viz Media app. That's okay. Like, I've gotten rid of so many things in terms of stuff that, like, content that I wasn't actively using, and so the only apps that I'm paying for now literally are KU, which I use a lot, and then also the Viz Media and Shonen Jump app. Like, that's as much as my book expenses cost me in a month, and I felt like I could budget to have that small little pocket for me to be able to catch up on One Piece. One Piece is dense, it's text heavy, it's not easy to kind of read through, but I at least want to get 1 or 2 volumes read. I'm not saying that I'm gonna power through and finish One Piece this year. Like, I'm being very, very realistic with the amount that I'm reading and the different things that I'm reading and the different readathons and committees that I've been sitting on, work-related stuff. I'm not gonna be able to read the entire thing. I'm not, but at least 1 or 2 volumes this month I think is pretty doable. Last thing that I did not write on my list that I do think is a good continuation is I restarted my read of Lumberjanes. There was a prompt for the readathon, and somehow Lumberjanes ended up working in it. I don't know where. I couldn't tell you right now because I don't have my spreadsheets in front of me, but I read all the way up to volume 4 of Lumberjanes. At this point, so many of Lumberjanes are available on KU, and then my library via Hoopla has a lot of the Lumberjanes books on there too. So at this point, I was kind of like, I might as well just continue, because I've been meaning to continue with Lumberjanes for a very, very long time, and I just haven't done it. I haven't done it, and that's another one that I can continue. I have some other things that are checked out. I don't know if these are things that, well, I mean, they probably will be things that I need to read because these are things that I need to turn back into the library. But there are a couple of things that I have checked out. I have stopped checking out so many physical things. I literally did a complete, which is, I should have filmed that, would have been a good idea. I unhauled so many of the library books I had checked out because I was like, I'm not getting to these things physically. And to be quite honest with you, with me switching to tablet reading and primarily to like relying on my tablet and relying on audio, I don't need to have these things physically checked out. But some of these things I do have physically checked out because they're not available digitally. So, or, you know, I think this one is because it's a webtoon. It is available digitally, but some of this stuff isn't available digitally for me to read. The first one that I have is The Cursed Princess Club. I have been meaning, I think I had this on my June pile of possibilities, and it fit a prompt, but I didn't get to it. It fit something, but I never did get to it. But this is one that I still want to get to because I really, really enjoyed the first volume. Y'all know I loved the first volume and thought it was really, really good storytelling. Candy and Cigarettes Volume 3. It took me forever to get to Volume 2, but I promised myself I was going to try to be better about getting to Volume 3. Once again, this is not a series that's for everybody. I know that everybody's not a fan of Candy and Cigarettes, but for some reason, I personally just keep sticking with it because I like it. I also talked a little bit about Medalist. This did not work for me as it could have, technically. If this could have worked for a prompt for something, and I had pulled it aside for a possibility of working for a prompt, but I didn't end up using this one. But I do want to get to this because I have not picked it up yet, and I heard pretty decent things about it. I had been meaning to catch up with Kakario, and Bed and Breakfast for Spirits Volume 2. I read Volume 1 a long time ago. A very, very long time ago. And I have not picked up Volume 2. And it's awful that I haven't picked up Volume 2, but I'm hoping dearly that I will be able to get to it this month. I also need to pick up Oshinoko Volume 5. Volume 6 is out. I'm behind. I love the series. The anime is out on DVD, Blu-ray, whatever. And it's good. It's good storytelling. It's really, really good storytelling. I'm excited to read it. I also need to read Blood on the Tracks Volume 16. I just want to get it done with. I want to get it done with, y'all. I'm so over this series. I just want to get it done. I want to get it done and over with. Y'all know how I feel about Blood on the Tracks at this point. I'm just not happy about it, but it is what it is. The last one that I have for manga, Toilet Bound Hanako-kun Volume 2, which that title always gets me. I thought the first volume was just okay. It wasn't anything like mind-blowing. It was just okay. So I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna go with it, and hopefully this works out. I also have 2 middle grade graphic novels that I wanted to get to. Meet Me on Mercer Street, and then also Amber Brown Is Not a Crayon. So I've also transitioned from reading a lot of my middle grade graphic novels to my tablet. This is just one that I already had checked out, and this one's interesting because it's graphic novel, but also like chapter book format. This is one of those ones that kind of blends, and it is a little girl who's an artist who is dealing with her friend is missing, I believe. Yeah, but when she goes up from summer, where the local corner stores board up, the adults in town are on edge, and Nisha is nowhere to be found. Okay, yeah. So kind of maybe like a mystery element, although it looks kind of colorful. This is a adaptation. Amber Brown Is Not a Crayon is an adaptation of a book, and this is about a little girl who's dealing with a friend that is moving away. So, and it's adapted by Victoria Ying, who I'm a fan of, so I'm excited to see that. But yeah, y'all, that's my plans for the month of July. I'm thinking about possibly stepping back into weekly vlogs, because that helped like motivate me for content. It kept me on schedule for content. So I'm hoping that maybe if I do that, that will be great. We'll see what happens there. But let me know what your July reading plans are in the comments down below. As always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. And if you're looking for ways to support the channel, all the links will be down in the description box below. And I will be back with another video soon. Bye.